Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning session where I challenge the status quo of the wisdom of the world and the church by diving deep into the ancient scriptures and applying them practically to situations in our present day. And today I'm going to be covering the economy of divine source creator.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
Before I begin, I gotta say, if you like these videos, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you haven't already, because honestly, this message is accelerating and we are reaching a threshold where we are crossing over into a new paradigm, a new way of doing things. I mean, many of us are already there, but it's up to us to take the batons and be on the leading edge, leading the whole world forward as examples for agents of the kingdom of heaven, manifesting Earth 2.0 in our own lives and in the lives and circumstances of those around us. But with that being said, I'm going to jump right into it today. We're going to be looking at the words of the Nazarene here in the Evangelion of Luke, where Jesus explains this whole system in just one verse. He says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." So the first step is to actually give. The first step is to engage in a system of exchange. You can't expect to get anything if you don't put anything out. That's what he means when he says, "As you do unto others, so shall it be done unto you." What you put out is what you get back. We're talking cyclical justice here. And this was embodied in the Hebrew scriptures under the term Yahweh, which was the personal name of the covenant God of the Israelites, when they understood that if they do according to what is good, and basically that just means, walk in love with your fellow man, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, then that same system of harvest, that karma would come back in their own lives, and they would walk tapped in with this divine source energy. But once you give, he says, it shall be given unto you. Again, what you put out is what you get back. But check this out. When you give, it will be given to you good measure. So you'll get a whole lot for what you put out. But then he goes on to say, pressed down and shaken together and running over. Well, what's all this pressed down and shaken together stuff? Well, I can tell you that my family, coming from Portuguese India, when people there would sell grain, man, cheating in that society is commonplace. And when they'd put the cup into the bag of grain, they'd put it in diagonally so that you'd form these little air pockets in there, and when they'd pull it up really quick and dump it in your bag, there would be like an air pocket in there that wouldn't be filled with grain, and you'd be getting less grain for the volume that you thought was a full cup. So in our own Portuguese community, my grandmother, when they were selling grain, my grandmother would make sure that the servants would pack it down, and the servants were absolutely confounded with this because they're like, don't you want to make money? Like, why are you giving them extra grain? To them, it was extra grain, but it was just a just weight or an even exchange. You can also compare this to brown sugar. When you pour it loose, it's very lightly packed, but you can pack it down and you get a whole lot more per volume. So after pressed down, he says shaken together. And when you shake that cup, you lose those extra air pockets and the grain gets packed together even tighter. So again, more per volume. I'm sure a lot of us have experienced this when we're filling our own jars in the pantry, with whatever it is, spices, grains, chocolate chips. Vegan chocolate chips for me, thank you. But not just pressed down and shaken together, which of course represents you don't get empty manifestations back for the seeds you've sown. He says running over. You get even more than the volume that you've invested. Even more because your cup overflows. It's just pouring out, not just into your own life, but into the world around you, into the lives of those around you. This is the abundance that we can expect from the economy of divine source. We can't expect anything less than that. Source doesn't skimp. Source is literally overflowing with life energy, with abundance, with wholeness. And that prosperity is what Source wants each of us to tap into and manifest in our own lives. It's only us, ourselves, that cut ourselves off from this actual potential of constant infinity being beamed into our own lives. But it's not just going to fall out of the sky, because look what he says then. Shall men give into your bosom? So it means that the physical dimension is going to be the one to actually manifest this physical abundance into your own life. It's not just going to poof out of nowhere, although that would be nice. And sometimes we do experience miracles because the time in between the seed and harvest is really shortened, but it's still manifest through physical means. Always, the harvest that we get is always manifest through physical means. It's like, if I wanted to manifest $1 million in a briefcase and all of a sudden someone puts this briefcase in front of me, I still have to reach out and pick it up. I still have to do that physical action, and it still shows up, by a physical means, whether somebody just drops it off at my doorstep or whether it shows up as an inheritance or me winning the lottery, whatever it is, it still shows up through these physical channels. But we have to be willing to engage in this system of divine exchange, and we have to be willing to put out that measure which we're expecting for ourselves, because he says, for with the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to me again. Meaning that same measure that you give out, it shall be given back to you. This is even paralleled in the writings of Paul the Apostle when he says in his second epistle to the church at Corinth, he says, but this I say, he which sows sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which sows bountifully shall reap also bountifully. That not only goes for manifesting, but that just goes for physical common sense. If you sow 1 or 2 seeds, you're just going to get 1 or 2 plants. But if you sow 100 seeds and you just fill that land with seeds, you're going to get a whole lot more harvest. It's a no-brainer. But then he goes on to say, every man according as he purposed in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. So you don't have to give because you're obligated to do it. You don't have to put out to the universe to say, oh, if I do this, then the universe is going to meet me at that level and then I'll get my harvest. It doesn't work that way. You have to give because you're convinced in your heart that the universe works this way and that the universe is abundant enough to meet every person's need. And honestly, manifesting from that state of being just means you're manifesting from a state of lack. And then the universe is going to have to give you a harvest on par with that state of being of there's not enough to go around. Just because someone profits, that doesn't mean someone loses. That's a fallacy that communism and socialism, they like to capitalize. Sorry, no pun intended. They like to manipulate that kind of story to get people to think, oh, all these rich people are rich. I can't be rich because they're profiting off of my back. But actually, the universe is abundant. And when someone adds more value to society, more value literally is created. And the universe is constantly on this uphill journey of creating more and more and more abundance. So we can tap into that ourselves. We can access the infinite bounty of Source Creator, that divine essence that literally manifests life in the remotest of seed. You can see concrete that's even this thick, and all of a sudden you'll see a crack and the shoot of a plant coming through. What is that? The plant itself doesn't have that power. It's the resurrection power that the seed actually channels and allows itself to be a conduit for. That is what gives that power to the growth of plants. And that power is in all of us. As living beings, we have the power to manifest this potential into the world. The potential of the kingdom of heaven, the potential to literally create a new earth, a new paradigm, Earth 2.0, the utopia that we've known we came here to experience. We didn't come here to be manipulated. We didn't come here to be coerced into doing things or even to sowing seeds in the religious institutions. We came here to plant the seed that Source has planted in our own hearts, that talent, that potential, that truth, that message. And once we do that, we will see a harvest like nobody else can reap. Only we can reap the harvest that Source has planted in our own hearts. And that potential, when we realize that in the physical world, literally has the power to transform not only our own lives, not only society around us, but literally we each have the potential to change the entire earth. All throughout history, the biggest impact has been left by only one person leading a very small group of people. And that is the potential when you tap into this divine infinity that we as individuals can manifest. So do your part and tap in. I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I'll check you in another video. Joel signing out once again. Agape, Salaam, Namaste, Shalom.